Good gracious. I'm about to start singing some Nelly over here, dude. I'm so excited to be here with you.
Dude, this is going to be
Good
such a good
gracious.
one.
That line right there, I gotta say it. Good gracious, ass is bodacious.
Yes. Keep it
Anyways,
classy
welcome
here.
in. Yeah, excited to be here tonight. Chat 10 Sports coming back to our usual humble abodes. Coming
Hmm.
in tonight, we were live, as you can see here. I don't know if it's on this side or that side, but Tailgate Brewery coming through for us big time on Sunday. Chase, tell me about some of that food at Tailgate, because I can't say enough.
So I'm not gonna lie to you. This is the first time I've taken a run at tailgate, food wise.
Yeah,
So I go in and I'm scouting out pretty hard. I am a definite walk in and scout food, but also now thanks to Instagram, I'll go on pre-show
yeah,
and find out what I want. And I see these waffle fry combinations because you got something different than I did. I got
I
the
did.
buffalo chicken.
Yep,
And when I see buffalo chicken, you boys going ham. I'm going to
hard
try
in
it
the
out. I'm
paint,
going to
baby.
judge you hard. And dude, it looked so good.
Hmm.
And sign me up, my friend, because that was delicious. I'm going to get it again this weekend, probably. That's just how we do it. How was
Yeah,
yours?
it was wonderful. Got some carne asada, like just freaking delicious. And I'll tell you what, like there's some cooking and then there's some actual like cooking. And I'll tell you,
Yeah.
those fries, it's easy for any guy to go out and grab some French fries and put some cheese and some meat on top. But this stuff was complex. I mean, great drinks, the atmosphere. Yeah, Chattanooga Titans fans will be there this weekend in case you'll be in Chattanooga, Tennessee with us. Chase will be there. I plan to maybe come back there early. I might be in Nashville for my granddad, his birthday this weekend. But in case you're in Chattanooga, Tennessee, Tailgate Brewery will be there right next to the Chattanooga Choo Choo. I'm telling you, get there at 12 o'clock. What's kickoff this Sunday?
4:05, baby.
Okay,
We're late. Yeah, we're the late game, weirdly enough, for the
so even
Houston
better,
Texans.
for me to come through. But yeah, 325 social hour will be there. Get your seats, get your everybody there, and then plug in for the game. We'll have halftime giveaways with Brian Hager, Chattanooga Titans fans, Chat Titans fans on Twitter in case you're there. But yeah, my guy Chase Green here. We're gonna sit here and talk about some Tennessee Vols, Kentucky Wildcats, 7 o'clock kickoff this Saturday night. First time, and this is a stat I saw today, Chase. We'll throw this one out there. The first time since Kentucky and Tennessee have been both ranked at the same time since 1951. And you know what happened in 1951 for the Vols?
W, baby.
They won the Dadgum National Championship that year, which,
Yep.
again, the stats, Hendon Hooker, people are talking about a lot of things are like, all right, not only does it feel like 98, it feels like 22 for what this team is. And it's exciting because this hyper, energy offense. So excited to talk about some Vols there. Where are you at today coming out of last weekend with the Vols and kind of what we're expecting to see this next couple weeks?
It feels like 51. I'll tell you that. It feels
Yeah.
like 51, baby. Feeling good. I actually thought, and I talked to you guys on Sunday about this.
Mm-hmm.
I actually thought that game, like the Vols would go down like 14-7 at some point. I knew you knew they were going to go out there and win, but like, are we really going to come out here and do this again? And I believed it. I was like, this is what's going to happen this year. They're going to have that one weird lay-in game, and they didn't do that. I
Yeah.
remember coming back inside and seeing 52-7.
Yeah.
And I legit, like, took my grandma to brunch, took my mom to brunch and the whole thing. So we had the whole family. And so, I was hanging out with her. I was like, today's the day I can kind of just peek around at the game score. And I'd look, but I guess I just didn't really keep up with time. And I was like, oh, we were having a fun day. Time might have just flew by. So I was like, oh, I come back inside and I took out grandma, had to walk her to the car, and I see 52-7. I'm legit thinking, oh, this is like into the fourth quarter. No. First half. First half.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my gosh, this offense didn't miss a beat.
Yeah.
Didn't freaking miss a beat. But that still doesn't take me away from being a little bit scared this weekend.
Well, I want to talk about it because last weekend the Vols went up 7-0 and UT Martin came straight back through and put 7 up. I'm like, here it comes.
Mm-hmm.
And there are I can't tell you, so many people I know who are just waiting for the bottom to fall out. And I'm like, man, and again, like chat10.com, if you've never been to our website, Chat10 Sports, myself, Chase, and others will contribute there as far as articles. But that's why I was writing the big orange adjustment, saying like we have to get used to this period of like, hey, we are winning convincingly and we're playing sound, good football on all three fronts. And it's like, hey, when does the other shoe drop, right? I mean, that's what we're all kind of holding our breath for. Are you nervous? I mean, does 12.5 as far as that line sound right for you? Because that feels weird to me being at home at night at Neyland. But how are you feeling as far as the actual spread, and what are you anticipating to see as far as not score prediction, but just overall feel of the game?
Honestly, that it feels pretty right to me, and
Mhm.
I think it's really close. I actually have Tennessee winning probably by 13.
Yeah.
Um, I it's gonna be really, really tight, I think, until later. Kentucky just has this knack for creating slow paced games. That's what
Yeah.
they do. They very solid defensively overall, good running game. They're gonna slow the pace down. They're gonna try to make sure Tennessee, like where Alabama really, really attacked fast after Tennessee mistakes. I think that Kentucky slows that down. It's a slow, deep stab more than it is like a shot to the heart. You know,
Yeah.
it's a weird, weird way they attack that. You know, they held Mississippi State to a low score. They're upsetting them. And I know this is not the same offenses. Don't get me wrong. I think this Tennessee offense is way head and shoulders above Mississippi State and Ole Miss, but still in the junction of kind of that fast paced offense, high powered. Kentucky's had a knack for slowing them down. And I think it is in a similar aspect to Kentucky's going to find a way to slow it down, but I still think Tennessee gets like maybe low 30. I could see for me, I have this like a 38-24 game, maybe somewhere around there. Maybe something like that. I maybe about 13-14 is what I thought I was gonna go with. So,
Mhm.
but I don't think they score. I don't think they get in the 30s till later on. I think that's kind of one of those like it
Slow
takes a
creeping
minute to
game.
get there. Yeah.
Yeah. See, I put up on Twitter today 38-17 was my score prediction. I think the Vols are going to I think this is that game. It can be that kind of game. If I'm going to put my money on it, this is how I would bet in this hypothetical of if Vols fans need the convincing game, right? Kentucky is a formidable opponent in the SEC right now. It's obviously not kind of shooting up as fast as they probably would like, and Bob Stoops, and you know, it's Kentucky, but they're
Yeah.
obviously focused on basketball, and it is what it is. But they could legitimately come through and surprise people this weekend. And I think I agree with what you're saying. I do think the Vols are going to have a couple more of those explosive plays. And here's the thing: Jalen McCullough and Hyatt, or excuse me, and Jalen Hyatt both coming back or excuse me, who am I thinking of?
Tillman.
Tillman. Yes, I'm so sorry. I want to talk about this other topic as well, as far as who is the best receiver on this team. You could debate that all day, but for those two guys to be coming back on both sides of the ball, obviously McCullough's getting through some of his stuff legally, and then and Tillman coming back from injury is significant because crazily enough, the Vols are putting up all these crazy stats, and they don't even have their number one receiver, which is
Yeah.
incredible. So all that to say, for me, this game to me could be the game for Vols fans to have that moment where the other shoe doesn't drop. This team
Hmm.
is still formidably a sound, team on all three fronts of the game.
Yep.
And Heupel can continue doing what he's doing. So that's where I'm at. I think that I think the over-under is at 61 right now. So I'm kind of, you know, I can
We're
see like
flirting with it.
yeah, I mean, I can see that being even like you're saying. I could also see it being something that is, lopsided in some ways. But yeah, I definitely think the Vols are going to come away with it. I think Steven Snyder coming in here, and again, if you're watching with us, feel free to jump in as far as the chat, especially with the dark mode jerseys. Kentucky is toast. Are they doing the black checkerboard?
I don't know if that's legit. I've seen a lot of people try for it. I
Yeah,
actually think it might just be kind of maybe a blackout. I
yeah,
think that's what they might be doing, which
yeah,
could be awesome. It could look good. I don't know. It's always one of those things like at night. I mean, it's like, is he look at he's gonna look good? I don't know.
yeah.
Uh we're gonna talk about that here in a little bit in the fan or fraud.
Okay, okay.
But I I think that adds to it in a way. If this is a noon game, in Kentucky or in Knoxville, slow, something like that, then I would be really worried about Tennessee. But I think that night atmosphere, the black jerseys, Halloween,
Yep.
because these boys win. That's gonna be a fun Saturday night for them fellas.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
no, I'm there is always the concern and the thought of it being a trap game, right? Like, I mean, it's
yeah, you got Georgia
you
next week.
exactly. And I'm thinking for Georgia too, for Florida and the biggest, what is it, biggest cocktail party in the country or
Mhm.
whatever it is. Georgia fans, I think, are and I was listening to Josh Pate, which we could talk about Josh Pate, his whole rankings, and just in perfect time, my boy Craig Story
Yeah, of
rolls in.
course, yeah.
Since we were
Perfect
all
time.
talking to old Pate on Twitter this week. Yeah, we'll get to that in case you're just watching with us. We're kind of dissecting and understanding how Josh Pate of CBS Sports is ranking current teams, which I did watch his video. It does make sense, like you were
Yeah.
saying, but just interesting perspective. But the idea of the trap game for Kentucky and Tennessee, because leave it like, their quarterback being a potential, top 10, top 15, 20 pick.
Yeah.
That
Yeah. Yeah, I
there's
guess
not,
so.
you know what I'm saying? There's always that idea of just what if. And I think mentally, I heard someone talking about how, obviously I think Georgia as the number one team has so much to prove this weekend with Florida, and then obviously next week with Tennessee. If everybody's still at the table like we're at right now, it's the biggest game of the year for sure. Even
Yeah.
that's coming out of Alabama weekend, right? So I'm just thinking though, do you think the Vols in the hype of Alabama, low weekend where they blew out a team like UT Martin, that they could potentially overlook the Wildcats this weekend?
A little bit because I think this is Kentucky Super Bowl in a lot of ways. Um, and Kentucky has to win where the Vols technically like they can't they have to win. I think they have to win. But there's still ways they could probably get in because then Kentucky could come out like it's one of those things that Kentucky wins this weekend, then they potentially have a chance to go against Georgia for the East. You know,
Mhm.
it's like this wild train of stuff, and you're like, what?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's kind of wild that there's these scenarios even for Kentucky because they come out here and dominate somehow, some way, like because this is going to be a game where I've personally shit on Will Levis all year. I think he's all right. Like, I mean, don't get me wrong. I don't think he's an untalented, you know, typical, whatever middle of the road SEC quarterback. I never thought he was like one of those guys, but I do think that he is way overblown because he has a big personality. Like he
Yeah.
eats mayonnaise in his freaking coffee and all that bullshit. I mean, like, he is just one of those dudes where I'm
Great
like,
A.
I was like, okay, because he's cool for game day doesn't mean he's a really good quarterback. He makes mistakes. He's got some talent, big dude, athlete, has some accuracy. Really, really bringing up their young wide receivers right now. Kentucky's got a couple wide receivers that could take advantage of a piss poor secondary for Tennessee. But it still just kind of blows my mind that like Levis is like this guy
Yeah.
for them. And you can see it's gone down a little bit. Like Levis is just a name. And they played well the last couple weeks. I don't think he's fully healthy. He's probably 85, 90% from what I've heard, which you never know about those percentages, what they really mean. Um, so I don't know. It's one of those deals that from what I was listening to earlier from the Kentucky people, you remember those days. You don't want to lose your starting quarterback because by God, you don't know what's behind him.
Yeah, I feel like Kentucky does this almost every time, where they have a quarterback that seems to be a good quarterback, and they kind of oversell him or they believe so hard and it doesn't come through.
Yeah,
And they're so Kentucky, right? I mean,
they're
like,
still Kentucky.
but I don't think it's a trap game by any means for what we're talking about in the sense of overlooking. I really genuinely think Heupel has this team mentally prepared.
Mhm.
And that's the difference because, like, we talked about, hell, week one when we were getting ready for Florida week, of like, now we're talking about SEC football. And to think of where we're at now, where we've beaten Alabama, right? I mean, we've had an LSU where we might lose in Death Valley. Oh, God, thank God it's not a night game, which we just watched LSU. Who was it they beat last week? Ole Miss,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
and the Vols go in there and they do it. That's impressive. That's an impressive resume on
yep.
several fronts. But, I think it's one of those things that Vols fans just have to go through this weekend to be able to breathe and see, hey, we're the same team that we were against Bama, against LSU, against UT Martin, and here we are, and we're taking the next step, which makes me all the more excited for next week for Georgia. Not to overlook the Cats, but just that's the story's leading up.
Yeah, go ahead and pull up Craig's little comment here, because Rodriguez, man, Chris Rodriguez, back-to-back 100-yard games. If the Vols defense, rankings-wise, show that they are a dominant or semi-dominant run defense right now, and that could be because everybody can just throw it on this Tennessee team, or they have to play catch up so much that they have to throw the ball.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a product either way that's winning for Tennessee. Doesn't matter how they're doing it; it's working. So with Rodriguez, I don't know if he's as good as Gibbs, but he has a different style, and they've got a decent front. It could give Tennessee some problems. Like guys like Jeremy Banks are going to have to really, really play well this weekend at linebacker, because Rodriguez will make you miss, and he's a freaking hoss, man. That guy can hit you. He's going to hurt you. You get a couple ugly first downs. It starts to slow the game down. It gets Tennessee out of rhythm. That defense is reeling, because I do think Tennessee's going to score on them. So it's one of those like, we just had a long drive fighting against Kentucky, and then our offense doesn't even just give us time to like take a breather. They score in 7 seconds, and you're like, oh my gosh, this defense gets worn down.
Yeah.
So that's the stuff that Rodriguez can do to you. And like Craig mentioned, like he worries you as much as Levis does, because he got us last year big time. So doesn't that, I know we've done well against the run, but doesn't it scare you a little bit with a guy like Rodriguez?
I mean, as far as the positional lineups, maybe yes. And if they might have some success in certain spots, but I'm looking, and again, I'm not the box score guy of like, well, they put up X and we put up Y. They're putting up at best this season. Miami of Ohio in week 1 for them was 37 points. Youngstown State 31 points to nothing. And then against an Ole Miss, who just lost to LSU, put up 22 points or 19 points. Let me see. South Carolina, they lost.
Ugly.
Yeah, but my thing is, and again, I don't want to read too much into just the scores, but it's like they're not producing a ton of offense as far as points go.
No,
and that's all the Vols are doing. Where this feels like it could be an LSU game again, where if they get out quickly, I feel like if the Vols, and I don't know that we have a muffed opening kickoff type of thing like we did in LSU. They seem to have just quit in LSU. I think
they got smoked.
Yeah, I think Kentucky has the fight that can, like you're saying, they can keep you around like a Rocky Balboa enough to make you worry, right? Mm-hmm. But I think this offense for the Vols is just like, I mean, we've talked about it for week after week. We are setting records, they are setting records, I should say, because I mean it's incredibly efficient, high powered, and I mean it was. But this week, I just think that it's great for them to have the composure to not overlook it. I hope that they keep the gas down the whole time, and we walk out of there as healthily as we can. So I feel really confident the more that we've talked about it tonight, where they're going to pressure the crap out of Levis and see what they can produce with Rodriguez, and if our defense can, I mean, if they can play average ball and hold them to 15 to 20 points, this is going to be an easy one, right? That's my perspective.
100%. And as our boy G mentioned today, he gave a pretty good analogy. I just think the defense is a little bit different. He mentioned whenever LSU, the 2019 LSU team, goes out and they had that dominant team, man, that is the most talented offense probably to ever come through. Let's be honest, especially when you look at the NFL talent they've got now. They went and played Auburn. And that was like a 24-20 game, I think is what that final was from what I saw earlier. And it was like, man, that could be similar, but I just think that's where, because it was the game before their Alabama run, and he put it this way, they had to go slay the dragon. It's kind of the same thing. We got to go slay Georgia. And as he put it, it looks like to me that Auburn team was a little bit more talented. If there's one thing about Auburn teams, they've always got some studs on defense. They can always slow it down. And it's similar-ish to this Kentucky. But here's my thing. Again, and I'll just reiterate kind of what you just said. This Tennessee offense is so damn good that it's hard to even fathom sometimes. Like, all right, slow down. They're good. They're really good. They're
Yeah.
absolutely top 5 offenses maybe ever as far as through the first 7 games go. Like you just have to put it that way. The only man hitting hookers behind in passing touchdowns is Peyton Manning in school history. It's just things like that, and you're like,
Even
it's
mention.
hard to even fathom because we have PTSD as Vol fans.
Right.
So it's just this crazy thing. And as Craig mentioned, like it's the game against Pitt. That was the ugly one. That was the ugly, like, can we get our shit together with not scoring in the second half? And also to reiterate off of what you said, Heupel just gives this team a whole different mindset.
Yeah, and I'm trying to. I mean, I can't even think to the last time that. I mean, maybe Lane Kiffin, where he's offensively, as far as what he can produce, and for the Vols to have been within a field goal shot at his time, where Terrence
Yeah.
Cody blocked that kick. But here and now,
Mount Cody.
yeah. But had to mention it. Sorry. I'm just thinking though, like for this fan base, for the team, to have the confidence in a head coach, like nobody, and then this is what's kind of freezing cold takes has come through the last couple of weeks, like looking for people with receipts of when Heupel was hired, people were shitting all over the Vols. Like,
Yeah.
what are they thinking? But nobody wanted the guy. But look at it. I mean, like Danny White has picked the right guy, right? I mean, this is working out on so many fronts, and obviously winning fixes a lot of things. So I mean, I'm finding myself where I'm buying in more and more to what this team has shown us to be, and it's like that reluctant step. But yeah, I feel all the more confident as we've talked about it. I know the comments that we've had and bringing up, perspective in some of the places that the Vols have been in the last couple of years and the last decade even as well. But I feel confident in this team to go out and convincingly, if that's 60 over under, I could easily see the Vols putting up 40 points. I could also see it being 30-30 or whatever. It's very tight. So
Yeah.
I'm not going to hold my breath, but I feel pretty confident the Vols are going to come out with a win this week.
I feel very confident. Like I feel confident in a good W. The spread's really close because I think Craig even said it earlier. Like a backdoor weird touchdown or something for them to make it close. Tennessee, gets a little ahead of itself, maybe makes a mistake or something dumb. That's how they'll get you.
Yeah.
That's how, if you want to go back to the spread point, that's how they'll get you.
Yeah.
We'll break it up even like 2 ways here. The All Blacks for Tennessee, fan or fraud?
The drip hasn't stopped on those things since they hit social media, and I am 100% in. Are we doing fan fraud?
I just wanted to throw out that one.
Okay,
I just want to see.
okay.
I want to see what your thoughts were.
It just felt fan fraud where I'm 100% in. I like the idea of like, hey, if you're playing this well, this is almost a little bit of a reward for this team to be able to go out and floss it up a little bit and have that swag feel. But this is a team that's proven themselves to be able to go out and perform. Like, give them that, but they look freaking incredible to me. What do you think?
I'm a fan, and I am an even bigger fan of the Tennessee social media game is too strong.
It is.
Like, oh my gosh, they just kill it every time. I think this one really, really hurts the old school folks that are kind of getting like, what, they love that we're winning. I've heard it, as a man that goes to a sauna in an old man's gym, when you go to the YMCA or you go to the sports bar, either one, there's some folks out there that have some questions about this new age of football,
Right.
And I think this was one for the old men that their time's over,
Yeah.
We're fast paced, we're scoring points, we don't play a lick of defense sometimes. But by God, we got sweet black uniforms, and we're gonna do something cool for Halloween, and I love it.
Yeah, no, I'm all for it, and that's why I was curious about the whole checkerboard.
Do you think it would have looked good? Do you think the black would have looked good?
I think I mentioned this last week. The idea of a jack-o'-lantern would be cool, but at the same time, if it's just straight up blackout and it matches what the players are wearing, that's pretty much that kind of trumps the idea of the checkerboard. But it also, keeps the white and orange checkerboard kind of in that reverent state of like this is a day game kind of thing, maybe.
Yeah.
But It mixes it up where it allows, and this is what it says to me. If I'm a recruit or even a student looking at the University of Tennessee, that looks fun, and
So much fun.
I want to be in the stands for that game. So it's like, yeah, it's all those factors that they're probably looking at and saying, all right, what can we do? Just having fun, baby. Just doing what the Vols do.
Just doing what they do, baby.
I was trying to pull up a photo of the drip of these uniforms. I think they look as clean as can be, especially the black versus the black with the orange lettering versus vice versa. That could be different, but yeah, I'm all for it. But yeah, feeling good about this weekend. Do you want to give us a score prediction? Because I've already kind of given mine, even though I feel like it's kind of changed. So I'll throw a secondary one out here with you if you want to go that route.
I said 38-20. I think I'm going to go yeah. I think I'm going to go 38-24. Vols don't get in the 30s until the fourth quarter.
Fourth quarter. And here's what I've thought the last 3 games now. Hey, the Vols are up by X. They're down by this. It's only the third quarter.
Yeah.
And this team they can pour it on anybody in the country, I feel like. Now, I would love to talk to you about Pate's top 10 because that was a little bit interesting. I don't know what your top 10 would be in comparison to his. But I'm going to say this as far as score. I said 38-17 on Twitter this morning. I could easily see it going that route, even if the Vols were to hit late in the low 40s, and then they kind of get some garbage touchdowns. That will be one for the books. Craig Story coming in here saying 38-27 Vols, late TD by Kentucky for the backdoor cover.
Backdoor cover.
You know it's going to happen, right?
You know it is.
You know it. But you want to talk about Pate's top 10, or is that like?
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, for anyone that does not follow the guy, I enjoy his stuff a ton, and I think he does a wonderful job. He put a top 10 out that had basically had the Vols. What was it? Ohio State 1, Georgia was 2, Alabama 3, Clemson 4, the Vols 5, right?
Yeah.
Or something like that, where the Vols were in the 5th spot after just beating Alabama.
Yeah, I think it was Michigan 5. That's who I think it was.
Michigan 4, Vols 5, right?
Yeah. That's what it was. Yeah, you're right.
And I'm very intrigued by the matchup of Ohio State Michigan for that late game in the year, but I understand where he's saying now, where he put it out basically saying here's the neutral sites today if these things were to go, and it makes me think, because having at first, and again, tell us what you're thinking. I know Craig's in here. Tell us what you're thinking, man. But to see it at first, like, what are you talking about? But it makes me now sit here and wonder and wish, why are we not doing this every week versus saying, here's the rankings based on what has happened, but here's the rankings based on what would happen today, which I'm like, all right, you're making me want to tap the vein there now, JP. Like, and I'm kind of for it. So I don't know where you landed if you get it, but it's like, man, no thanks. But I kind of get where he's at, and it seems pretty accurate to me because I haven't watched a ton of Ohio State. I don't know how good they are compared to some of these SEC teams or Michigan, but neutral sites, interesting take on it for sure.
Very much so. The Michigan one's the one that gets me. Because funny enough, me, Craig, and Chill and all these guys are sitting there, and we're watching that Michigan Penn State game. And yeah, they beat the hell out of them. I get it. But they nickeled and dimed them to death. And I don't know, man. Michigan just doesn't have the wow factor to me. They're good. And maybe they're just a win slow kind of team in some aspects. And I know they can put up some points, but I just also, when you watch them, it's a different story. I don't know. They're a tough one to me. I do, and this is to the point, to the Tennessee, Alabama, Josh Pate way. For people that haven't seen it, they have Alabama ranked ahead of Tennessee, and people are like, well, how could you do that? Whenever Tennessee just beat them. Yeah, but think about it this way.
Is that what I sound like, Chase?
No.
Because that's what I was saying all week.
Now, I don't know why I like revert back to like Johnson City radio.
Long time
first time caller, long time listener. I just don't understand that Joshua Pate boy going up there and having the rankings when Tennessee went in there and beat Alabama, and he has them ranked ahead of Tennessee.
They beat him like a drum.
Yeah. Well, here's why. Because if you were to play on a neutral field, if they were going to Atlanta tomorrow to play in the SEC championship, Alabama would be a slight favorite.
Yeah.
And if you look at it from a home field perspective, you get 3 points. Tennessee won by 3, and also just about a minute before, literal minute
Yeah.
before, Alabama misses a field goal, which they probably would have made it home and maybe on a neutral site. So there's your possible 6-point swing.
Right.
And I get you can give me the argument of maybe Tennessee would have gone down and scored just as fast as they would have at that time. Maybe so. Maybe would have gone overtime. Who would have known? But at that time, it's almost a 6-point swing. That's what we have to go off of. And Alabama would have won by 3. So I would probably say Alabama's a 3-point favorite, maybe like a 3.5, Vegas zone 5, somewhere in that zone. It'll be close, but Alabama would be favored. Ohio State, Georgia, yeah, definitely going to be favored, man. You watch Ohio State, Marvin Harrison's younger son, those boys can flat out play. If there's somebody that's competing for the Heisman with Hooker, it's CJ Stroud. Those guys are good. They are the most top to bottom talented team I've seen all year. But once again, we'll see what happens in I guess late December.
Yeah, and I wanted to bring up Craig's comment here, saying Pate just needs to not call it a ranking; it's a bettor's rating, and that's all
Yes.
it is. Michigan is above UT due to history. Vegas has a bias to Michigan, Ohio State, which I
That
mean,
they do.
my thing is if their favorite is one thing, like Craig's saying, if these guys actually lined up today, I do wonder of what the outcome would be. I think it would be tight. Obviously, I don't know though, man. Alabama made a lot of mistakes in that game. And the Vols defense was not wonderful. It was not great, but Bryce Young was phenomenal. Hendon Hooker was phenomenal. And that's where it's just like, I think it's just a flip of the coin. And that's where it's hard for me to see a 3-ranked Alabama team and a 5-ranked Tennessee team. And I agree with you. Like, yeah, a minute prior to this outcome, they were lined up ready to kick a field goal, but that's football, right? Like, that's what it is.
Yeah.
And right, wrong, or indifferent. I mean, I appreciate Pate's perspective, his creativity to say, hey, if we look at it this way, all for it. I just love the fact that it just sparks a conversation like this because we all still want to know how good is this Vols team. And if we're talking about the top 5, if we're lining up, are there any top 5 in Pate's rating, as Craig calls it? Like, how would they fare against all 5 of those teams? Do you think that they win all 5? Do you think they win 3 out of 5? And who are the teams that would be concerned for you? And why is it Georgia or Alabama and Alabama?
You know what's weird is, this is pure stupidity here. I do like the matchup against Georgia better than I do Alabama.
Today. You're talking about today.
Today.
Yeah.
Today. I really, really do believe it. I know it's going to be tough going down to Athens, but I really look at it this way, where Bryce Young was so great against Tennessee, and yet they still pulled it out. I understand. I'll take the home field. I'll go back to my previous statement a few minutes ago. That home field advantage adds so much to that. That's where Alabama's mistakes, that's where Alabama's frustration came from. Bryce couldn't get a snap off sometimes because the center couldn't hear him yell.
Yeah.
Like, that crowd played so much into that game. But I really, really think that when you compare the offensive talent from Tennessee to Georgia, yeah, I think Georgia's going to get a couple stops. I really do.
Yeah.
I think they're going to stop Tennessee a couple times. You know what? I think Tennessee can stop them too. I don't think they're very great on offense.
Yeah.
I think they're good. Don't get me wrong. They're Georgia, man. They're a factory down there. But I
Yeah.
do like the Tennessee matchup against Georgia better than I do Alabama. So that one I would take. But when it comes down to, I think I would take Tennessee over Michigan. I think I'm close with Craig. I think it's probably a pick 'em.
Yeah.
On some, if they're going to be playing in Glendale, Arizona, or if they're going to be playing in now, if they play in Atlanta, like, because of the two, that's where the 2 playoff spots are this year. If they play in Atlanta, I'm probably taking Tennessee. That's going to be a lot of folks from Knoxville coming down 75.
That's the thing. We travel just like
Yeah.
Georgia fans. And I mean, especially a reinvigorated team like this. I do agree. And I'm thinking you put the exact same scenario of Tennessee, Alabama's outcome in the Chick-fil-A SEC championship at Mercedes-Benz scenario. Bama wins that game.
Bama wins that game.
Yeah, that's a hard one. But Yeah, we could talk all day about the
So much fun, isn't it?
yeah, but it's like that's where and that's I think in a few years or I don't know, a year or two, we're looking at 8 teams.
Yeah.
Baby, let's
It's gonna be
go.
so
Like
much
that's
fun. It's terrible for student athletes, but it's so fun for us.
which it's the old timey gladiator, feel, all that kind of stuff. But
Oh, can you
go
click
ahead.
on Steven's comment real quick here?
Alabama plays in Death Valley next weekend at night, so that game, which game to watch out to Tennessee versus Georgia.
Yeah, I actually put out a tweet the other day talking about, and I totally put this out kind of even for like my friend's sake. That was really about it. And it was like, wow, we beat out. I guess I said it in this way, but in a tweet, I said, "Oh, wow, Tennessee and Georgia beat out LSU, Alabama for the 3:30 game." But in my heart, what that meant was, dadgummit, because this will be in the two biggest games. And I love you, JJ Hill. Craig Story gave this man more hell than anybody. But the two biggest games, maybe in my freaking millennium lifetime here, are going to be where I'm at weddings.
Yeah.
And I will be in Charleston, South Carolina at the gayest wedding possible, the most bougie wedding I've ever been to. You got to dress up in a tux. It's going to be a blast. But I'm going to be sitting on my phone at some spots because I'm having to be at a wedding because these daggum 3:30 games. I was really hoping that would be the night game. I wanted nighttime in Athens because that could be an easy sailing. But another 5 o'clock wedding that I got to be at for a 3:30 big time game.
You're just too popular, dude. You're just too good of a guy.
Well, I don't know these people that well, to be honest. I know them through a phone because they're Hannah's friends. But you know what? Charleston, South Carolina will be awesome. But dadgummit to be on another phone game.
Hey, you know what? We make it work, man. We make our commitment work out here. And so I want to look around college football this weekend too, Chase, with you because I feel there are some pretty solid games as far as some just in general Big Ten games. Obviously, Ohio State, Penn State, we've talked about. Let me see if some other ones throughout what you're seeing too, Chase, because I think there are trying to see. Yeah, the Georgia Florida game. I think Georgia's going to smack the paint off of their face.
I do too.
I actually saw a funny meme today of Florida coming out with their usual uniforms up top, and they're wearing jorts, and they are Daisy Dukes, so they're coming out. Georgia, yeah, I think Georgia, like you're saying, mentally, I wonder how Georgia's feeling about this game, just because of obviously the rivalry. But do you think they could spend all their energy, just rhetorically asking the question, do they get so hyped up this week that it could exhaust them going into next week? But the Vols are also kind of doing a similar, type of, that they're going to win most likely.
Yeah.
But could they, kind of be poured out a little bit, I guess, going into next week? But I'll be definitely watching that game for sure, though.
Yeah, I agree with you because here's what Tennessee needs to happen. This is the largest cocktail party in the world. They're going to be sitting in Jacksonville having a great time. I think that Georgia needs to win. It needs to be a close game. Both teams just play their heart out. And then boys in Georgia just have a great time on Saturday night. They're still reeling next Saturday. That's what you need. You need a little bit of partying too hard, a few too many cocktails, if you will. That's what you need.
Get you worn out that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know, man. That's the kind of game for me. Georgia allowing 22 from Kent State and then Missouri. I don't know if Florida's that team to do it. But you know what? Maybe they come in all pissed off if they were to lose this weekend, but I would love nothing more than to see Georgia lose, just for the sake of mixing up this crazy beehive of this college football playoff landscape,
Yeah. I think about the 3:30 slate is really good. With Florida, Georgia, and then Oklahoma State, Kansas State. That's the two. Oklahoma State, good win last week, man. That was a good one for them over Texas. There's a couple that conference is weird. You thought Texas was going to be it. Oklahoma State still coming out. Kansas State, TCU is by far the best in that conference. It seems like it's good stuff. There's a lot of teams fighting, dude, and it's a fun year to have big time schools up top.
Yeah,
but there's some sneaky ones still around. And Oregon looked really good last week against the UCLA team that's got like an average age of 45. They have like 26 transfers. That's the only. This is the stat that I heard. This is one of those. I've watched UCLA a couple times. I like watching Chip, see what happens out there. But this is another one where you look at it and you're like, man, it's Bo Nix. He's played really well, so I can't make that face anymore. But you ever hear those stats online or in a snippet or on a show? And it's like, man, UCLA's got 20 guys that are transfers that are over the age of 21. You're like, oh, that's right. That's experience. That's leadership. I'm going to bet on those guys. You ever do that? You're like, that's the stat I'm going to roll off of.
No.
Well, that's the crap that I do because I'm dumb. And I bet on UCLA and they got their ass beat. That's the kind of stuff that I do. And that's why I deleted my betting apps this week, is because I was like, quit chasing your freaking tail, man.
Yeah.
You've watched UCLA for like a total of 38 minutes this whole freaking season.
Out. Get it all out, baby. Let's go.
So I deleted my apps this week because I'm not gambling, because I'm chasing my tail. I'm not losing a lot of money, but I'm losing a lot of pride. I used to be good at this. I was great at this for the first 4 weeks, and I've just become hot garbage. I'm not good at this anymore. So I'm quitting for a week.
I'm going to bet.
I lost track with.
I'm so proud of you, Chase.
Thanks, buddy.
God, that was hilarious, man.
Thank you.
I feel like you just had a legitimate moment of just full on. Just
I needed that. I really needed that.
I'm glad that we all went there together. And for anybody that's still watching with us, thank you for staying. Oh my goodness. No, but I wanted to mention Bo Nix because that matchup for him, and I thought you were going the direction as far as seeing stats about, Bo Nix is putting up some really good numbers.
Yeah.
Mariota put up similar numbers at this point in the season when he won the Heisman, but there is just so much freaking talent in the league right now. Because again, like as much as we want to say Hendon Hooker, Heisman, there literally still could be 2 or 3 guys, and it's I feel like it's usually that 1 or 2 guys, those 2 guys that's like, this dude's going to win it. It might be close with this guy, but a lot of football left. I don't think Bo Nix is going to take it, but it's just interesting to see how well he's played since the first Georgia, shellacking that we saw, right?
We all wrote him off, didn't we? We all wrote him off.
That's what we're saying. Like, I mean, you have to kind of eat your words and take it back, because we all did it of like, man, Oregon's out here to play, right? And it's you can't sleep on them. And as we all know, and this is the thing about, to bring up Pate's rating or versus ranking, is like, this, by the time that these teams would still line up, there's so much football to play. There's so many things that could happen that the neutral site, the hypotheticals are great, but it's like you just never know until they are at the day and time, because any of these teams at the top 5 right now are going to continue to get better and just finesse what they're already doing and get more repetitions and all that stuff. But I fully anticipate the Vols being one of those teams, and it's just interesting to see how this whole thing could shake out, because we look – that Michigan team, when they play Ohio State, how does that look? Oklahoma State getting some good wins. Wake Forest just creeping in there. Clemson's obviously going to be around. So it's like, man, let's just shake the beehive up and let's see what happens. But Oregon is a team that does, maybe they'll make the playoff, but maybe they'll get smacked. But that's my 2 cents on the grand scheme of college football, and I think there is so much happening. It's addicting to sit here and watch it for sure. So
it is because of, and I know we're fixing to roll into the NFL real quick, but to roll off that point, college football has been so good this year, and with the NFL scoring being down, it's made Saturdays a little bit more fun for me again. Like I've been an NFL guy for a while, and I'm sure I know Tennessee's production has been a part of it, but I've also been like, even in the shitty years for Tennessee, like I've been there. I'm going to watch every Saturday. I'm not going to miss, and I'll still watch Carolina and things like that. There's always been those things for me, but this year's just been a lot better. There's just a lot of talent. It's more fun. There's some good ranked matchups, teams you weren't expecting to be ranked. It's like, oh, well, there's, TCU and Kansas State. I'll watch that one, and so there's a lot of fun stuff there. And with scoring being down in the NFL, I think it's actually turned me to be more of a college guy in 2022.
We'll see. Steven Snyder comes out here saying, I would love to see the Vols in the playoffs, but the Sugar Bowl would also be awesome, which made me think, which made me think if you were to choose, and this is maybe a different topic for a different day, but if you have the Titans in the Super Bowl or the Vols in the Natty,
Oof. Oof.
which we don't have to go there right now. Just a hypothetical.
Just hypothetical.
But I agree with what you're saying. Like college football has been great, and I am that guy of like, hey, the Titans. I grew up in Nashville, kept up with the Vols, but they've been bad my whole life, and the Titans are kind of rolling out of a bad slump here. But yeah, loving it, man. Freaking loving what we're happening. Obviously, we're learning how it goes with betting.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
we're all on the same journey here. But anyways, yeah, we'll move to some NFL conversation because a lot has happened this week with the Titans. The Bills, everybody's getting new stadiums now, and we're all comparing and contrasting how our stadiums look compared to these conceptual designs. But I wanted to try something here. I'm going to try and pull up just a view of the Tennessee Titans website. Let me throw this branding off of here, and you can see behind. Let me get this right here. There we go. But this beautiful shot, just for Chase and I probably to look at here, of the outside of this concept. Chase, does this thing look like a football stadium to you? Because I feel like everyone's complaining about how this thing's not like, it looks like a food city or like a Whole Foods, or I think John Lawrence threw out the beautiful idea of a Top Golf because
it looks like a Top Golf. Yeah.
But what do you think of this thing, man? Is this thing like where are you at with it?
I think it looks great.
Yeah.
But it does look like a Top Golf out front. When PJ Memes put that one out today, I freaking loved it. I was like, that's so perfect. But I whenever they spoke about the design,
yeah,
I was worried it was going to look really ugly because they talked about a weird dome shape, whole thing like that. I was like, what are they talking about? But on the inside, you cut down a few seats, yes, but it still looks so good.
Mm-hmm.
I know a lot of the players aren't a big fan of the turf part. Comes with the territory, I guess, but I think it looks awesome. And if they add all the additions like we talked about last week with the fan zone and that whole stuff, like the tailgate area, that's gonna be so sick, you know?
It is, and that's where I feel like this thing, and because I've seen the opinions of, it looks this way. This is not just a football stadium. Yes, obviously it holds a football stadium and it can seat that and they can perform there, but it's also the concert venue. It's also the college football playoff venue, college basketball. It's like this
That's
thing,
the big one.
Yeah, but it's all of those events where it's like now Nashville has the facility to do it, which I mean, I've loved how Amy Adams Strong, even today, listening to her talking to Mike Keith about the kind of the concept previews. It's good for the city of Nashville, for Metro County, but it's good for the state of Tennessee because it brings in so much revenue for the state. And I'm just thinking that thing, if they go through with all that, now I've seen people say, oh, I'd like to see some brick where it looks a little bit more worn like downtown Nashville does. But look at that damn thing. I mean, it even the inside where I love the Titans putting the stiff arm of Josh Norman on the jumbotron.
Yeah, Chris Horton showed that. Yeah. Day. I was like, God,
but this looks like we're walking into the Titans version of Mercedes-Benz and SoFi. And
yeah,
we can nitpick about the look on the outside, but whenever that thing's full and that energy is there, and we're having those big games, they're for sure going for turf. Is that right?
Yeah, it looks like it.
That's the one thing, man. And I get it's hard to maintain grass in Tennessee, especially like remember some of those years where that field looked horrible.
Yeah,
that was
it's not Chicago, but it's pretty damn close.
Yeah. So all that to say, I love the concepts, and I cannot wait to see it. I think is it 26, 27 they're shooting for this thing.
Yeah, I think they're really wanting 26, but they're like, we're not going to make this thing suck. So
yeah. Exterior terraces and porches for panoramic view of Nashville. The outside glass stuff with even SoFi and the Raiders, I think looks clean as hell.
Yeah, RIP to a lot of birds, but
yeah. So just to mention that, but then on the other hand, you have the Bills Stadium, which is open air, which I don't know why you go through all that trouble in Buffalo when you're going to have, I mean, this is something that Zach Lyons and Braden Gall were talking about on the football show with 440 Sports. I was actually in there listening to them today at work, but talking about how you have the exterior outdoor elements coming into a stadium like that in that area. Why not? But there ain't nothing else happening in Buffalo that's going to have the type of impact that Nashville's going to see for this one. Last year after the Music City Bowl, field looked bad. Yes, I
Yeah,
mean,
that it did.
so yeah, and Craig coming in the turf. They went with the turf, and the grass is bad there because it's next to the river. It's a floodplain, and it's just impossible to grow good grass. A great point. Craig coming off the top for me this week with Pate's ranking. And
Yeah.
now some grass knowledge, but
Shout out to those engineers, you know?
gotta love it, man. Gotta love it. But yeah, I love the concepts. I love if it's gonna be what is it in the parking lot kind of area that they're at with Nissan right now. And then I'm curious to see if they're gonna try and tie in something with the Nashville Stars, the MLB kind of
Yeah.
concept idea, whatever's happening there. And then if they try and go full battery, do they have other venues and bars come around this stadium and just make it the mecca on that side of the river? So a ton of possibilities there. We could probably talk about it all night, but let's talk about this big topic because this one's been a big one this week from several angles, and it makes sense at first. At the headline read, you're thinking this is the stupidest thing you could see, but the Titans, in my opinion, Chase, should be starting Malik Willis if Ryan Tannehill is less than 70% ready to go. Where are you at with that conversation, that debate? I mean, is it worth it? How do you see it, and where are you at?
Yeah. I will say this. Tanny better be hobbling because Malik's got a long ways to go, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, you can't play him if he was anywhere close to what he was doing at the end of the game last week. You can't do that to the guy. You got a Texans team that you got to go out there with Malik probably and figure out a way to win it.
Mm-hmm.
You got a gauntlet coming up. I don't care. I know some of these teams are reeling, but it's still the Green Bay Packers. It's still the Kansas City Chiefs are not reeling, but you have the Chiefs, you have the Packers, you're going to Green Bay, you have Cincinnati. You got to run, man. And your Texans team it's not a bye week. It's any given Sunday. I get that. But it's your only shot really to win without Tanny. So you got to hope Tannehill gets healthy. But if he's not, I'm with you. I think you got to start Malik Willis this week and play a lot of run ball.
Yeah, well, and I want to credit Tyler Rowland from Tic Tac Titans. That's his handle on Twitter, but Locked On Titans does an incredible job putting out daily content.
So good, man.
Yeah, so awesome job there. Does some film breakdown as well, but he is the initial person I saw this from, and again at surface level, it sounds ridiculous, but as you kind of see the energy, or sorry, the injury that Tannehill had, even if he's not, if he can go. Still, it's like this defense for the Texans is so bad. And if Nate Davis is coming back this week, which we're seeing him work on the sideline, it's like steadily getting some people back. And we said it during the game last week when we were at tailgate last Sunday. This team's different on defense when Bud Dupree lined up because he looked better off the edge. And I'm just thinking if the Titans can get their offensive line halfway decent this week and they can run that ball, Malik would not have to do a ton.
No.
Excuse me, but yeah, I just see kind of as they can shuffle like Vrabel can do. I mean, they can use what they have right now, but also exploiting their defense or the opponent's defenses and things like that. But even if Tannehill could go, I would still be open to the idea of them arresting him simply for the sake of just, hey, let's think about the future. Because again, the Titans, and this is something I was looking at today. Week 1, Daniel Jones, right?
Yeah.
Josh Allen with the Bills, David Carr, which 24-22, he threw all over the Titans that day. Colts, Commanders, Colts again. So in the last 3 or 4 weeks, they have not seen a really good quarterback. This week we're going to see what
Davis Mills.
Yeah, Davis Mills, and don't sleep on the guy, but he's not going to make anybody lose their job.
Their offensive line's not good enough to do anything for you.
Right, but we're going to go through all these weeks of bad quarterbacks, and then all of a sudden our secondary is going to be prepared next week for Patrick Mahomes. That's right.
On Sunday night too.
Yeah. So my thing is the advantage there is get your quarterback as healthy as possible. So when you line up, he's actually a threat and not, well, we saw him last week against the Texans getting hobbled off the field again. Cause
yeah,
I think it's a chess move that Vrabel probably has thought about for 3 weeks and already foresaw it before Tannehill was even hurt. But I'm kind of leaning, and we saw, I think according to A to Z Sports today, that Malik Willis did take the majority of first team reps just because they were resting Tannehill.
Yeah, and he's not even practicing, right?
Yeah, yeah. So very limited, but I mean, I know that you and I are kind of on the same page with Malik of like the guy's got a long way to go. But let's see how it is. And I think this would be that type of game to capitalize on the ability to give Tannehill a week. Because you're already injury plagued in this. I mean, you have what 13 guys on IR right now, and I think the Colts have like
That's
what
crazy.
6. Yeah, other teams have 4, 5, maybe 6 players, and we have double that. So yeah. Craig's story coming through saying, can Derrick Henry throw it? Not asking for any particular reason.
Yeah,
Uh,
see what
yeah,
happens. Just
wanted to see
wildcat the
there.
whole game.
Yeah, so I don't know, man. It's a game time decision type of feel where they could call it, but I won't be shocked if Malik Willis is out there. I just want to make sure he can catch every handoff for obvious reasons after last week because that was not fun. So
that was ugly. Yeah.
I know we're getting on our hour here. I want to get your thoughts as far as how you see this game kind of going because I think a lot of what's been out there with this conversation of a bad run defense for the Texans. Henry's coming along. You have the ability just to line it up, put 2 tight ends out there, get you a jumbo package, and just run the damn ball down their throats. But how do you see it going, Chase?
I kind of feel like it's going to be Malik starting at this point. I kind of feel like that way. So here's what I'm going to say. Come Monday, there are going to be people being like, should we just start Malik?
Mm-hmm.
Because I think that I think they're going to come up with a really fun game plan. We've seen this from one-off quarterbacks before where they go out there. Kenneth Walker last week got not Kenneth Walker. Yeah, his last name's Walker for the Panthers. Did the same thing. He's going to have, I think Malik goes out there, might have a 2 touchdown.
Yeah.
19 for 26, 19 for 25, maybe like 190, 200, has a good throw or two, does some athletic stuff, gets 55 on the ground. And like, well, he can do what Tanny does.
Right. And the controversy starts.
And the controversy starts because they blow out the Texans. I think they win. I guess, well, it's a Titans blowout. They're going to win ugly somehow. I think it's like 24-6.
Really?
Yeah, I think they dominate up front. I think Bud and them get after it.
I could see that happening for sure. I could see it going that way, and I really honestly would not be shocked to see them win 27-24.
Oh, you think it's actually going to be a close one?
But I don't know that I think that. If I were to say here's how I would bet, I think the Titans are going to cover. I think they're going to win. What is the spread and all that right now? I don't know if you have it pulled up.
Oh, I don't know. Yeah, because I was wondering what they're going to do.
Spread right now is -2.5 for the Titans, which that seems
that makes me think they have Malik starting. You know,
Vegas is leaning that way. I think the over under's at 40.5, which that 2020 17-20. Maybe I could see that happening if that over under.
That sounds more like Titans Texans right there.
Right, but that's what I'm saying. But you look at the last year for the Steelers game that we should have won last year, the Texans game last year that we should have won. I mean, if they put Malik out there and they come out with a loss, I think now is the type of time that you can afford a loss because this division's kind of getting in the position. Not that you're trying to lose or if we're going to risk the biscuit, this is probably the week to do it for the sake of getting your quarterback healthy for when we have Mahomes coming to town. And let's see what the other schedule here is. Broncos, Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, and obviously, Bengals losing Jamar Chase for 4 to 6 weeks apparently today. So I want Tannehill as healthy as possible. And my concern is on the other side of this hypothetical of the controversy starting, if they put Malik Wilson out there and he looks like trash, then John Robinson's a garbage GM all over again. He needs to just trade all the picks. It's like that's where decisions for the Tennessee Titans this week. And if I'm going to gamble, if I'm John Robinson, give me some Malik Willis. And I want to talk about this too. I know we're getting, I don't know if we want to go a ton past the hour, but this trade deadline, man, my expectations, maybe I'm just like a creature of habit and I see the pattern the Titans have developed where even if they were to get a player, it's all a risk with free agency, with a draft, with all of it, right? But where I'm at today, The offensive line has to get better.
Has to.
That's the first priority for me. Obviously, busting with the boys, putting out the controversial, headline or whatever you want to call it about OBJ having apparent interest in the Tennessee Titans.
Just stir that pot, boys.
Yes. So, and there's Teron Davenport and several other people in the community have talked about is it Dillard or Dillard, the offensive tackle that's behind Jordan Mailata in Philly. Yeah. Could be a target. Go get that guy and give him everything that you can. Sign Odell Beckham. I like the idea of Chris Conley, even though he's not what you want. Yeah. I mean, I'm surprised that Cody Hollister got a roster spot over Josh Gordon. I just felt the footage of Josh Gordon looked quicker, in his routes and things like that. But
that's one of those. I want to know what's going on there. Yeah. Like what's going on? Is he just like one of those guys? Like I can look good like on a tape, but don't do anything outside. I don't get that. Do you?
Yeah. No, I mean it's the same thing with Austin Hooper. They just paid a guy $10 million to come in here and block and have one game with 3 catches for 56 yards, and we're all thinking he's Delaney Walker. People are just like, finally, he's coming about. It's like, what? Trade this guy, in my opinion.
He has to do this way more consistently. And he did look good. He got us a great first down and a couple other big catches.
But if he didn't make that one acrobatic catch,
he did have the one juke out first down that was big early on.
I'm just thinking, but it's
I'll give him that. But but I'm not
giving
him
game on a Sunday. I want to see more Chig than any other tight end on the team right now.
100%.
Which he lined up at H-back and did pretty well. But I mean, I think he's the guy that you're going to push your chips on. And I know that position's not incredibly deep at all. But if you're going to make a move, free up some money and see if you can bring in an offensive lineman or entice somebody like an OBJ to come in. And I want to get Craig's take here as far as his comment on Facebook saying in the defense of the tight ends, they are forced to block more with us not having any pass blocking at all. 100%. I know, which obviously ties up running backs as well. Yeah. But we saw, Tannehill couldn't get the ball out because there was 2 to 3 seconds of passing time. And he's getting it in his face, which, for this weekend, I'm trying to think of, I couldn't tell you a defender. Now that Whitney Merciless is no longer with that team, I couldn't tell you a defender.
It's tough down there, dog.
I'm going to try and just see if I can find somebody who's leading in tackles for that team.
Yeah, give me some names. I'm sure there's somebody.
I'm just thinking we already have Zach Cunningham, which was another guy that would always bug us. Let me see here. Statistically speaking, obviously, Damian Pierce is having a good year. Jonathan Owens is leading in tackles. Jalen Petrie, safety, is leading in 2 picks.
Oh, Stingley Jr.
Stingley, right? But that's a first overall pick. Desmond King's down there. Hey, what's up to our former Tennessee Titan?
Man, he was another one I thought was actually going to be really, really, really good
for us.
Remember that wasn't he the guy we traded from the Chargers?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought he did well enough. I mean, to keep a spot. Yeah, who the hell is Jonathan Owens? We'll have our research team. Blake's actually off tonight, so we'll have to have our full research team back next week to research.
He was a big-time player of at Missouri West College.
Yep,
5'11", 210. Safety.
40 tackles. Yeah. So all that to say, hopefully, if it's Tannehill or if it's Malik, they can light up whoever is lining up this week.
Yeah,
or they can light them up as far as defense. But I forgot where we were going with all this stuff. But I have just little to no concern as far as the defense. I think it's one of those games that, I think the Titans could go either way, which I don't want to be redundant. But to get back into the trade, trade talk and things like that, if they're gonna do it, which I know John Robinson's stigma or the reputation he has, he's never going to overpay somebody or for somebody or even in compensation. But when you're seeing receivers, I forget who it was traded yesterday for like a 6th round pick. Like these are some of the guys that are coming out, and Robert Quinn going. It's like Titans, like what? If we're going to do it right now, and I'm curious to see if the Titans are going to push their chips in, make some moves if they can, because obviously they can control what they can control, and if the deals come through, But I think the Titans could cash it in this week, maybe continue having the success they're having. But I feel like this is still a team that if we hit the playoffs, and here's the real test. Let's see here. In a few weeks, the Titans have the Philadelphia Eagles coming through, which will be really interesting to see. As probably, I mean, they're the best team in football, not just by record, but how do they compare to the Bills? And
I watched a lot of all three teams. I will say this: I think the Bills are still one. I like a lot of what Philly's doing, but I still think they're kind of like maybe 2B at best. And I think the Chiefs, especially when they play right, man, they averaged like 20 something yards a play last week or something crazy. They're just so dominant when they get rolling. And I still think it's the Chiefs at number 2. I think Josh Allen, the Bills are number 1, and the Philadelphia Eagles are right there at number 2, and they're 2B or 2.5 or 3, I guess whatever. But they're close. But to your point though, adding Quinn now, and then the Chiefs getting Kadarius Toney from the Giants, the rich are getting richer, and it's like these great players, these not these great players. I mean these great teams
making
are
moves.
getting better, and they're making moves. Like do things like that. It's small moves. It's getting a guy like Toney who can be very versatile. It's a guy
Yeah.
that
If
you're
that
getting
dude
Robert
hits,
Quinn, who's had 18 sacks with 2 different teams. Nobody's ever done that.
and
He's
he's
still a
at the
freaking
age.
monster.
He's at the age where he's still putting it out. And if the Kadarius Toney thing works, that's like the I don't know. I don't want to say poor man's version of Tyreek, but it's like that could be.
That's another
He's
weapon
with the Giants. Yeah, but the interesting thing in the rankings, according to ESPN right now, overall percentage, I guess by let's see, differential, and then points for and against there. Philly's at number 1. The New York Giants are at number 2.
Wow.
Buffalo Bills. This is like a not a Pate take, but it's just an interesting shakedown. Vikings, Chiefs, Jets, Cowboys, and then Titans. So didn't anticipate the Jets being in there. Giants, Vikings, head scratching, but yeah, I'm intrigued to see what the Titans can do leading up into this week, and then Chiefs, and then that Eagles game is going to be fun to watch for sure. Anything else you want to talk about NFL as far as before we close this out?
No, I think that's good, man. We've just got it's
Cool.
gonna be a good run, and we got Sunday, baby. 4:05 at beautiful Tailgate Brewery.
Yeah, so if you're in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and the surrounding area, find the Chattanooga Titans Fans fan group on Facebook. You can also find them on Twitter at Chat Titans Fans, Instagram as well. Have all the details. But Tailgate Brewery, right next to the Chattanooga Choo Choo in Chattanooga, Tennessee. We will be hosting our watch party at, I believe it'll start at 3 and then 4:05 kickoff. So come early, get your seats. RSVP if you can, just for the sake of head count, because great setup, but it could get packed, especially if we have a big crowd, which I mean, should be a good Titans win, but we will see. But to close this one out, I'm Trey Wynn. Find me anywhere at Trey Wynn on Twitter, Instagram, MC Green 423 for my guy Chase Green here. Make sure if you're on YouTube, if you're watching with us anywhere, subscribe, follow the page on YouTube, and then obviously thumbs up if you don't mind. But appreciate everybody's interaction. And again, we'll be back. What is it, Monday next week? And we're going to try and keep these live shows going. So pretty cool.
Oh, yeah. They good ones, baby.
But Chase, appreciate you, man. And I will see you guys next time. Let me fire this video, and we'll see you. Have a great night.
See you guys.